Hi, my name is Michael Johnson. I'm a ballroom dance professional, a life coach, and a peak performance expert. I'm part of a group of motivated people who are dedicated to attaining emotional mastery and unlocking our full potential. We don't believe others are responsible for how we feel. In fact, we don't believe anyone can make us feel anything. We believe in the magic of ballroom dance. It has taught us how to improve our bodies, challenge our minds, and inspire our souls. And in return, I want to share those lessons with the world. We are lifers, and this is Magic for Life. You ever have one of those days where you just can't get going, or maybe it's even a month, or maybe you're on to years now where you just can't get motivated? You know, so many times you hear that motivation is garbage. I've heard some of this clickbait on maybe Facebook and some of the social media outlets out there. And honestly, motivation isn't garbage. We're going to talk about it on today's podcast. Hey, welcome back, everybody, to the Magic for Life podcast. I'm so glad you joined me today. And a big shout out to all my lifers out there that are working hard to improve your lives. I'm so glad you guys all joined me today for this podcast. We're going to talk a little bit about motivation. And as I mentioned in the intro, sometimes you hear on social media that motivation is garbage. And I think that's kind of ridiculous. A lot of times the social media outlets are inundated with people that are trying to get you to click on their ads, click on their thing that they're doing, trying to get you to buy something that they're selling, whatever that is, whether it's news or whether it's a product that they're selling. And they'll do anything to get that click, anything to get you to pay attention to them. And this was one of them that I saw the other day, and I guess I was sucked in, so I guess I can't say that I was any better, but I definitely clicked on it because I wanted to see what the heck they were talking about. Motivation is garbage? Are you kidding me? Sometimes you need the motivation to get going. Now, motivation won't carry you, and that is indeed the truth, but you do need motivation to be able to get off the ground. You need to be able to get something moving. Even the Wright brothers figured out that without some momentum, they weren't going to get their plane off the ground. We need motivation. We need something to get us moving. We need something that's going to get the engine roaring and ready to go. One of the things that I noticed was a few months back, I was working on a project, and then all of a sudden the holidays hit. And it just seemed like everything kind of came to a halt. We were working so hard to get everything complete. We saw the holiday was coming, and we just wanted to be able to sort of tie up the loose ends and make sure that as we entered into the holiday that we were prepared to be able to take some time off and have all of our projects and all of the things that we do continue to roll and continue to move forward without them falling flat while we took some time off. And we made the most fatal error ever. And if you're human like the rest of us, you've probably experienced this along the way. None of us are immune, unfortunately. And essentially what happened was we got everything organized, we got everything put in its place, we were all ready to go. And then, lo and behold, the holiday ended. And one of the things that we didn't do was we didn't plan for the end of the holiday. We didn't plan to give ourselves a little bit of momentum or start something off so that we could get the ball rolling prior to coming back from the holiday. And this was fatal. I mean, honestly, we went through the next couple weeks after the holiday, and we had a rough time. We had a hard time getting going. Not only me, but my staff and the people around me. You could see that it was just, everything was just sort of sluggish. It was like we were going through the mud to just try to get things going again. And it gets hard. And we had to be able to find that motivation. And little by little, we got back into the projects, and we got back into the things that were most important to us, and we did a little bit of soul searching here and there to find out and dig out the things that were the most important. So what I guess I'm trying to get across to you today is that we've got to be able to find those things that motivate us, and we have to make sure that we don't drop the ball. We have to be able to set ourselves up for success, and in many instances that means that we leave a trail of breadcrumbs back to the things that are most important to us. And as we continued on past the holiday, we got into some of our projects, and as we got into the projects, we remembered that, hey, you know what, before we're done with one project, we've got to make sure that we have the next goal in mind, that we can see what we're aiming at and what we're headed towards, so that we don't drop the ball and lose that beautiful momentum we get from having the wonderful motivation that we start with. We've got to be able to find that motivation. Now, for many of you, it's different things. Sometimes it's a podcast like you're listening to now, or sometimes it's music that gets you pumped up and ready to go. Maybe you need to have that playlist ready to go. It's that playlist of songs that gets you pumped up and ready to go and moving forward towards the things that are most important towards you. But for others of you, maybe it's a movie. Maybe it's one of your favorite movies that you love to see that gets you thinking and gets you ready to be inspired about what it is that you care about the most. For many people, it's reading a book. Maybe you find a new book at the store that just lights you up and gets you thinking about the possibilities. You know, it's so funny because it's easy to forget how important looking at the future and looking at what goals you've set and what you want to attain in your world. It's easy to forget that. And it's funny that we do that. It's funny that we forget that. And I think part of it is because we get tired. We get tired because we do a lot of the same things every day, and there's a certain portion of our world that is allotted to maintenance. We've got to take care of certain things every day the same way, and there's a lot of energy that goes into that. But even with that maintenance, you've got to still be able to look ahead to the future. Now, I'm not telling you to live with your head in the future, but you do have to have a target that you're aiming at so that you can continue to move forward in the right direction. See, if you want to get to Disneyland and you start heading south, well, unless you're in Washington, then you're going to have a hard time getting to Disneyland. Everywhere else in the United States, you've got to be heading west. And that's a good start. So you got to make sure that you're at least aiming at the target. You got to make sure that you're aiming at the target or you'll never get there. And boy, that'd be a silly vacation heading to Disneyland if you're going the wrong direction. So we've got to do the same thing. We've got to be able to look at what's most important to us. We've got to be able to aim at the goal that we are trying to attain. And then we've got to check in periodically and make sure that we're still heading in that direction. There's going to be pitfalls. There's going to be things along the way that derail us. And one of those things is easily losing the motivation to continue moving forward. When you can see the picture very clearly about where you're headed and what you want to do, it gets much easier to get the motivation to sit up and do the things that you need to, even if they're maintenance things or even if they're just things that maybe seem small and insignificant. You know, for my dancers that I coach, they've got to do their sit-ups every day. They've got to do the things to make their core strong because sometimes they're very demanding of what their core should be giving them the ability to do. And sometimes it's really easy to just skip and go, you know what, I don't have the motivation to do it. But when you have a goal, when you know what you're looking at, when you know what you're working towards, it's really easy to get in and do the sit-ups that you need to do. And that's just one example for my dancers, for businesses and people that I talk to in my life coaching business. It's all about making sure that you're clear on what it is that you want. And so that's what I suggest and offer up for you today is get clear on what it is that you want. If you know what you want, it's much easier to find the motivation. And then you've got to set up ways for you to succeed. You've got to find ways for you to be motivated. And remember, motivation is just the first step. You've got to wind up the Model T by getting out of the car, winding up the crank in the front, getting that Model T car ready to go. And once that engine is primed, you can jump back in the car, turn on the engine, and start to go. But you have to be able to get in and get primed. You've got to get ready. And you know yourself better than anybody. What is it that inspires you? What gets you ready? What gets you all hyped up and ready to go? That's definitely motivation. And while some people are correct that motivation doesn't last, it is a really great way to start off. I'll share one last story, one last example with you before we head off for today. And that is that if you were to ever go camping and you were to start a fire on your own, let's say we go back to the old Boy Scouts way of starting a fire. Now, don't get me wrong, I wasn't ever a Boy Scout, but I have watched my fair share of documentaries. And you know what? If I had to start a fire on my own, I could probably figure it out. But as I understand it, you take a nice stick, you cut it off on the edge, you give it a little bit of something to rub against, and any of you that have tried this can attest to how hard it is. But what you're trying to do is you're trying to get that piece of wood rubbing against another piece of wood. You use a string maybe to create some tension, and you try to get it going fast enough that you can create a little bit of heat. And that heat hopefully will spark a little bit on the bottom, and you're trying to get that spark into a kindle, right? Some little dry leaves or dry something that'll burn. And then you blow on it and you try to give that little spark some motivation to turn into a flame. And honestly, that's where so many of us are at with so many of our wonderful and amazing ideas that we have, things that we want to attain. Sometimes they're just sparks, and you've got to be able to get that spark into something that will light a fire within your soul. And that's really what we're after. We're trying to get that fire in your soul lit up. And sometimes the motivation you need is right there. It's just a little tiny spark. You got to blow on it a little. You got to give it a little love and attention, and it'll light up like a brilliant flame right inside your soul. And I know that maybe sounds a little esoteric and a little out there, but you know what? If you can get that fire in your soul lit up, then you can accomplish anything. So find your ways to get motivated. Music, books, movies, whatever it is. Maybe it's a podcast like you're listening to here. Maybe it's a TED Talk that you go listen to. Gosh, it doesn't really matter what it is that motivates you. You just have to find a go-to that when you lose some of your motivation and momentum, that you can find and dig back into that. Find a way to get that momentum so that you can keep heading towards your goals and the things that inspire your soul. Anyway, I hope this helps for you today, and I'm so glad you joined me and look forward to talking to you on the next podcast. We'll see you next time.
Are you loving Magic for Life? Please like and share our podcast on iTunes or wherever you listen to your podcasts.
Interested in learning to ballroom dance? Check out ballroomforlife.com/free for a free 3-day trial. You can learn to dance right in your own living room and change your life forever.